Our last speaker I'd like to introduce is Dr. Fonsah. He's a professor at the University of Georgia, and he teaches agricultural and applied economics.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Greg Fonsah, and I usually talk about the controversial issues, some of the issues that people don't like to hear about, but it's very, very important for our growers, for the industry, and for our folks. Today I'm going to be talking very general. I'm talking about, touch a little bit about the increasing input prices, which we all have witnessed this year, or last year rather, we're already 2023. Good to see you, sir. I'm going to talk a little bit about supply chain disruption, the global competitiveness, and especially trade policies, and that is affecting the industry. This is my overview here. I'm going to really explain the difference between U.S. agricultural trade and trade balances. And then I'm talking about U.S. vegetable trade and trade balances, which are two different animals. And then I will touch about the highlights that we're having, the kind of progress that we're having in the industry. And of course, I will talk about the overall U.S. trade agreement, which is, in my opinion, part of the reasons why we are having a lot of problems in this industry. Now, the U.S. agricultural trade and trade balances. When we talk about trade balances, we're talking about export minus import. How much good we send out to other countries and how much we receive in the United States. If you see the green line at the bottom, it's that balance between export, what we send out, and what we bring in. And if you see in this particular graph, look at 2014, you can tell that the U.S. was doing very, very well. We were bringing in $43 billion in agricultural trade balances. So we were doing really, really, really well. But since then, look at the trend. It's been going down and down and down and down until 2019, where we actually had a negative trade balance. And then, of course, in 2020, you guys know what happened in 2019 and 2020. What happened in 2020? COVID came, all kinds of problems, it shut down the whole place. So that trade balance actually went down to 3.7%, almost $4 billion that we lost as U.S. agricultural trade. Then it started picking up a little bit, and then the forecasted figure for 2023, this year, we're going to have a deficit of $9 billion. This is all U.S. agriculture, not just vegetables or fruit. That includes our machineries, the tractors that we sell overseas, bulldozers, everything that has to do with agriculture. But I'm going to also talk about what is happening in our industry. Now, no matter how good you are in what you do, you know, sometimes I've heard some people say my father was the best watermelon grower, my father was the best blueberry grower. All that is good, but the question is, where are you going to sell it? I spoke yesterday in the citrus section, and I told them that I have one citrus tree in my house, just one. And when that thing blooms, my whole family cannot eat it all. We have to share with our neighbors. And just imagine if you have 5 acres, if you have 10 acres, and you are such a good grower, because we Americans here, we are the best growers in the world. Because we have the technology, we have extension. I mean, go to other countries and talk about extension, they have no clue. They know the word, but they don't do what we do because they don't have the facilities. But when you grow that much, where are you going to sell it? That's why it is important that we focus on the market. Now, if you look at the graph in front of you, it's going to be on your right-hand side. Because it's on my left-hand side, you see that most of our crops are going to East Asia. In 1996, we exported $24 billion, 1996. And by 2001, it has swelled to $62 billion. That is pretty good. That has two sides. Everything has two sides. It's pretty good. Let's talk about the good side first. Now, let's look at the next one, North America. By 1996, we only have $12 billion deal with them. But by 2021, just a couple of years back, it has swollen to $51 billion. That is also good. But what is the negative side of that? The negative side of that is that the market is saturating. Very soon they cannot take anymore. But look at all the other ones. We don't have any contributions, or we have very little contributions. That is what we should be thinking about. We should be thinking out of the box. We should be targeting those other areas where we don't have a footprint. Now, I'm going to tell you something here. Look at the European Union, which is almost in the middle. 1996, we had $10 billion worth of business with them. But in 2021, it only went up to $11 billion. Why is that? And the European Union is one of the biggest markets in the world because they have 27 countries put together. So why are we not trading with them? That should be our focus. They also live the same lifestyle like us. They have the same banking system like us. It is easy to do business with them, but why don't we do business with them? Now, I'm going to leave it there because I'm not a politician. I can step on some toes, so I'm going to leave it right there. Let's go now to the next one that actually concerns us in this hall. This is the U.S. vegetable trade and trade balances from 2010 to 2024. I told you this one here, the blue lines are the export and the red lines are the import. The line on the bottom, the green line at the bottom is the balance, which means what we send out minus what we bring in, what we bring into the United States. From 2010, we had a negative $3.5 billion. And guess what? It has never improved. That concerns all of us in this hall because this is vegetables. The first one was overall agriculture, which had to do with heavy equipment, anything that has to do with agriculture. But this one has to do with us in this whole vegetable. By 2024, we are looking at $12.4 billion loss. Negative, it's called negative trade balances. When it's positive, we call it positive trade balances. But these, by 2024, just next year, we're looking at $12.4 billion negative. That is a challenge to this industry. That is a challenge to this industry. Now, there's a survey conducted by the American Vegetable Growers Association in 2022. That survey shows the concerns of our growers, the vegetable growers. Number one concern was labor, 70%. 70%. Government regulations, 45%. So we need help from the government because that was number two on the list. 45% of the problems is coming from the government. Excuse me, I'm just a teacher. I'm just telling what, I don't want to step on any toes. Then the next one is pest. My colleague here has talked about nematodes and all kind of stuff. Every crop you grow, there are always pests. When I was in the industry, my boss used to boast. You know, I was in Hawaii. I used to go to a conference like this, and the boss said, "Oh, we don't have pest and disease. Ask Greg." And I would step on his toe. I said, "Don't say that. Don't say that. It's just a matter of time before the pests start coming in." Once they discover what you're growing, they will test a little bit, then they find out that it's good. Then they go and tell their brothers and sisters. So let's check this thing out. This is really good. So you can't say there's no pest. It's going to be. And diseases, it's going to be. Then the next one is crop prices, 33%. I mean, those are all double figures. How do you expect the industry to survive, the vegetable industry to survive? I cover both fruit and vegetables, so I like to talk about fruit and vegetables because what you guys are going through is the same thing those in the fruit industry are going through. And it's heartbreaking when you see these figures. Then they come in food safety regulations too, 32%. And one thing that this study did not mention, which I just added at the bottom in red, number 6, they forgot to talk about the natural calamities. You guys know what we've been going through in Georgia and even the United States. In 2017, what happened to the blueberry industry? The freeze knocked it down. In 2018, hurricane came and knocked down the whole vegetables and pecans and stuff. So we forgot to add that in this survey. I just added that there because that is also a huge problem. And these are the challenges that our farmers go through on a daily basis. And this particular one, the farmers have no control. The government has no control. Now, let's talk about the effect of weather. Just see what the growers in Florida had just last year. They had to double plant because of Hurricane Ian and Nicole. What about the Californians? The Californians are going through hell now. They are the major producers. If you want to rank in the United States, California is number 1, Florida is 2, Georgia is 3. California is going through hell. They can't do certain things because of the problems that they're having. Pest is one of them too. Like I say, pests will always exist. Okay, our neighboring country in Mexico is also going through trouble. The hurricane that came here also affected them, especially in the western and the northern regions. So it's not only the United States, it's all over the place. Here are some of the concerns that our farmers have. And I put our new executive director's picture there, so you can see that he too is going through this problem. All of us are going through the problem. How can we become more efficient to offset the rise in input cost? That's a good question. How can we easily penetrate new markets? I just showed you the graph. We're only talking about Asia and North America. But we should go to other markets. I can tell you so many small countries that can afford to buy our vegetables with good price. But we don't take that risk. Why? Sometimes it could be the government policy that puts a brake. You can do this, you can do that. Why can't we soften those policies so that our growers can survive? So those are the things I'm talking about. How do we expect protect existing market? I just told you the two main markets we have is almost saturated. The last time I went to the terminal in Toronto, in Canada. I was sitting in the terminal doing some studies. The guy called me and said, look at, this guy just called me from Georgia. He wants to send his cucumber. But look at, all my cucumbers are still here. It's not yet sold. I was right there in the store when calls were coming and from way across. I don't want to call anybody's name. And he said, look at, the store is still full. What am I going to do? Those two markets are saturated, or they are close to saturation. So we need to do something. Same issues. How can specialty crop growers survive multiple days of sub-freezing temperatures? Those ones the farmers cannot control. But we have to find solutions. This kind of solutions will probably come from universities where, they can come with some new ways of modifying agriculture or production so that they can harbor these freezing temperatures. How did Congress fail to address the H-2A program? I mean, it just happened last December, and we didn't have any solution. Yet we are seeing what? 14% increase in wages. The current wages was what, $11.99, $12, and now it's going to go up to almost $14. How do you expect the farmers to survive? These are the issues that we have. According to one report, there was labor shortage of over 100,000 workers in the United States in 2022. Usually we bring in migrant workers about 250,000 a year. So if we were short of 100,000, it means we're only able to bring in 150,000 because we were that short. Now, if you have that kind of shortage, how do you expect some of the farmers to get their crops out of the field? So they call the field loss goes up. In my presentation yesterday, they were talking about 33 to 70% call for citrus. If you throw away 33% of your crops, how are you going to make money? How are you going to stay in business? Part of the reason is labor. We don't have the labor. And to be honest with you, if the policy is well done, the migrant labor don't really plan to stay here. Some of them will come and go back. They don't want to stay here. They just want to come do their work and go help their families. So these are the kind of problems we have. Now, we're going to start seeing exorbitant prices in the grocery stores. I mean, everybody is seeing that now. It's no more secret. Before, it was secret. When we mention about it, they say, oh no, it's not possible, but it's happening now. Growers will continue to face unaffordable and unpredictable input costs and cost of production. They can't survive if the cost of production keep going up. Because if they raise the price also, the consumers may not be able to afford. And the U.S. would eventually be threatened with increasing food insecurity. Now, I hate to talk that line, I hate to mention that line, but it's absolutely the truth. Because if I show you certain graphs now, you see that what we bring in, even though we are the best growers, is more than what we sell outside. This is a clear example here. Let's look at the shipping point prices here. Between 2021 and 2022, onion alone experienced 75% increase in price. Onion. Lettuce, 68%. Potatoes, 41%. And let's go all the way down to sweet corn, 3%. So you can see that the problem is coming. Okay, look at this one here. This is a big challenge for our farmers because they cannot predict. Even if you're a good economist, you cannot predict the prices. It is so volatile. It fluctuates from time to time. You just have a hard time to tell which direction it's going to take. Look at sweet corn prices from 2020 to 2022. Every year is different. You cannot say, oh, this year was good, it's going to be good next year. No, you can't say that. And if somebody tells you that, you know the person doesn't know what they're talking about. The only one that did really good was onion. And that's why you see in the other graph that I showed you, you see onion has 75% increase. So you can see the price here for onion. The red line is 2022. But look at the other ones. Look at snap beans. And these are all the things that we do in Georgia. So what do you expect our snap beans growers to do? What do you expect our tomato growers to do? What do you expect our sweet corn growers to do? The onion is lucky. I mean, if you go 10 years down the road, onion was not this lucky. It's just luck this time. Okay, let's look at the monthly vegetable prices, as price index. The broken line in the middle here is the average of 2018 to 2020. But now look at 2021 is the yellow lines. They're all below the average. And then look at the green one, which is 2022. They're all volatile. They go up and go down. They fluctuate, go up and go down. They can go up in 1 month, like in March, and you get happy. But if your crop comes in April, you're in trouble. So it's hard for the farmers. It's even hard for those of us who claim to be expert to advise the farmers. How do you really advise the farmers? So this is a challenge. Let's look at this one here. Domestic and import fresh market vegetable shipment, January to November, 2021 to 2022. Look at onion on your left-hand side, or your side is, left-hand side. See, it's going down. Lettuce is going down. We're not really big in lettuce, but lettuce is a big crop, going down. Celery is going down. Broccoli and pepper, it's equal. The only thing that is following the normal trend is the import. That is following the normal trend. And you can see some activities happening for pepper, bell pepper. Let's look at the harvested area. In 2022, we had 18.6% decrease in harvested area. And here, the definition of harvested area is fresh vegetable and processing, potatoes, dry beans, and mushroom. This doesn't include watermelon. We had 18, almost 19% decrease. And in basic economics, when there's a decrease, what happens to the price? Price goes up. That's 101 economics. The price goes up. If you have 18%, what happened? Of course that price is going to go up. Then you look at all the other items. Even mushroom that we used to do very well, mushroom had 10.6%, 11% decrease. Same problem. Overall, we had 7% decrease in harvested area. That is bound to increase the prices. Then let's look at production. Production, the same thing. We had 1% decrease in production. And let's check now the import and export. Vegetable, we had 4.4% increase in export. No, sorry, import. And 15% in processing, 25% in potatoes, 25% dry beans, and mushroom 15%, a total of 10% average, 10.2% increase in import. But we only had 2%, 2.8% in export. And remember how we get the negative trade balance is when we subtract export minus import. So you see that we are bringing in more in the United States than we're sending out. So if we cannot bring in more, what's going to happen to our food security? We're going to be threatened. Can you imagine the most powerful in the country being threatened by food security? It's unspeakable, I think. Look at the per capita consumption. We had 2% less. So now, even though the increase, like if you see 2019, we had 3.8 pounds per person. It has dropped to 3.7 because people cannot afford to buy vegetables anymore. So we actually had a 2% decrease. Even internally, when we started talking about health issue, everybody wanted to eat vegetable, everybody wanted to eat fruit. But now, it's negative because some people cannot afford it. These, I'm not going to go into details, but these are some of the trade agreements that the United States have around the world. I'm going to talk only about 3. I'm not going to really get into it, but I'm going to just mention 3. The ones in red. Let's start with the one in the bottom. The EU Comprehensive Transatlantic Agreement, 2013. And if you remember the graph I showed you, the table I showed you, the EU has 27 countries. That's the biggest economy after the United States. We were sending 10 billion in 2000 what? And then by 2021, we're only sending 11 billion. How come that agreement did not go through? That agreement would have solved most of our problems. It didn't go through. I'm going to leave it there. Let's look at the next one, Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Trans-Pacific, that's another huge economy where all our vegetables can go. What happened to that agreement? That too did not go through. That has nothing to do with the farmers. It has to do with Congress. Now, let's go to the third one. USMCA. It used to be NAFTA. We switched it to USMCA. It addressed everybody's problem except the specialty crop. The vegetables, the fruits, they didn't gain anything from that up to today. So those are the 3 I want to touch on. And those are the things where you saw that graph I was talking about, where they break down the concerns of the farmers around was government policies. Those government policies fall within these 3 things here. So with that, my conclusion is that the vegetable growers will continue to face different challenges, including, 1, labor reforms, H-2A programs. You guys know it's gone up to 14% labor. That's going to increase cost of production. Pest and disease will always be there. If you come with a new crop today and there's no pest and disease, just give it 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be there. Increased input costs, it's not going to go down today. As long as there's war in Ukraine, it's not going to go down. Food safety is an issue here. We have to deal with it. Our farmers have to deal with food issues. Our farmers have to deal with everything. And then the worst one is natural calamity. How do you control hurricanes? How do you do that? The early Congress looks into these problems, the better for the industry. Thank you. And I will take any question you may have for me.
Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In the beginning, you mentioned about market saturation, that is the current situation. Would that help in the, because towards the end, as you were mentioning, food insecurities that may pop up with the markets, it's kind of opposite in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah, let me show you something here. That's a good question, sir. I really appreciate that. Let me show you something here. You see here, European Union, 27 countries. 10 billion in 1996, and it went up to only 11 billion in 2021. Okay, let's go back to the last slide. That's our problem. EU Comprehensive Transatlantic Agreement, which was scratched off. All the countries signed except the United States. All the 12 countries, 11 signed, United States backed out. And the EU is the biggest economy after US. They are just like us. They have the same banking system. Everything is easy for us to trade with them. You're not going to be afraid that your money is going to disappear. No. And we scratched off. There were 12 countries involved. 11 signed the treaty. The United States backed out. Their credit union is the same. Their everything. It's easy to trade with them than to trade with some countries in Africa or somewhere in Asia, to be honest with you. And we backed out. Why did we back out? So we would have had 11 additional markets just there. And that is one of the biggest after the United States.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Yes, sir.
One question on your survey is you show rank the survey problems. You show government regulations and you also show food safety. Don't they both fall in the same category? Food safety is.
Yeah, yes, this is a survey you're talking about. I did not conduct it. It was conducted by the American vegetable growers. So these are the problems that the people, especially the growers, their concerns. 70% of their problem was labor. Now you guys know, even just last month, our Congress did not pass the H2, did not do anything with the H2A. They just ignored the whole thing. And then wages has gone up 14%. Just imagine 14%. How do you expect the farmers to survive? And labor is a big chunk of cost of production. Let me specify that. Labor is a big chunk of cost of production.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, sir.